Ongoing migrant influx here in the city, trying to find room for them, causing tension within the city shelter system.
The migrants don't want to be in shelter for the rest of their lives. They're here just to get a little bit opportunity to get out.
Nearly 100,000 migrants have arrived in New York City since the springtime, and that number only expected to rise.
1980, I didn't come that way. I passed through the right channel. Why don't them pass through the right channel?
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
Tensions in NYC. Migrant assimilation and unemployment are complex issues intertwined with broader societal challenges such as marginalization and language barriers. In the context of New York City, these issues are exacerbated, leading to heightened tensions and incidents of violence involving migrants. Assimilation is the process by which migrants adapt to the social, economic, and cultural norms of their host society. In NYC, where diversity is celebrated, assimilation might seem natural. However, various factors impede this process, chief among them being unemployment. High levels of unemployment among migrants not only hinder their economic integration, but also contribute to feelings of marginalization and alienation. Language barriers further compound these challenges. In a city as linguistically diverse as NYC, migrants who do not speak English proficiently face significant hurdles in accessing education, employment, and social services. These socioeconomic disparities can exacerbate tensions within communities, especially when coupled with instances of violence involving migrants. Incidences such as attacks on reporters and clashes with law enforcement, including the NYPD, not only pose immediate safety concerns, but also fuel broader narratives of insecurity and cultural division. In the public discourse, these incidents often become focal points for debates on immigration and security policies. Mayor Eric Adams' recent remarks reflect a growing sentiment among some policymakers and segments of the public regarding immigration enforcement. Adams' call for expanded cooperation between local police and federal immigration authorities signifies a shift away from the sanctuary policies that have defined NYC's approach to immigration enforcement in recent years.
Ongoing migrant influx here in the city, trying to find room for them, causing tension within the city shelter system.
Tonight, the migrant crisis is playing out on the streets of New York City as dozens of asylum seekers protest being moved to another shelter.
About 150 new National Guardsmen to help with the state's migrant crisis. Now,
nearly 100,000 migrants have arrived in New York City since the springtime, and that number only expected to rise.
Sanctuary policies aimed at protecting immigrant communities by limiting local agencies' cooperation with federal immigration authorities have faced criticism for potentially undermining public safety. Adams' stance underscores the complexity of balancing immigration enforcement with public safety concerns. While advocating for cooperation with federal authorities in cases of serious crimes, such as robbery or gang activity, Adams raises valid concerns about the limitations of existing policies in addressing public safety threats posed by certain individuals within migrant communities. However, critics argue that increased collaboration with immigration enforcement agencies could erode trust between law enforcement and immigrant communities, potentially deterring victims and witnesses from reporting crimes and undermining community policing efforts. The debate over immigration policies in NYC reflects broader tensions surrounding migration and integration in multicultural societies. Finding effective solutions requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of migrant unemployment and marginalization, while safeguarding the rights and safety of all residents. Immigration Policy Debate Analysis. The history of limiting cooperation with federal immigration enforcement agents in New York City dates back to the 1980s, when it was initially introduced as a public safety measure. At that time, the city aimed to reassure its large foreign-born population that they could interact with local police without fear of immigration consequences. Even Republican Mayor Rudy Giuliani supported these policies, emphasizing the importance of making immigrants feel safe in reporting crimes and cooperating with law enforcement efforts. Over the years, These limits on cooperation have evolved and expanded under subsequent administrations. Mayor Eric Adams recently expressed concerns about what he perceived as drastic shifts in these policies. While he did not specify which aspects he intended to change, his spokesperson indicated opposition to laws implemented in 2014 and 2017 under Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration. One of these laws prevents the city from honoring requests by immigration authorities to hold crime suspects in custody unless they have been convicted of certain violent offenses and a judge has issued a warrant for their removal. The other law prohibits the use of city resources to assist in immigration enforcement efforts. Proponents argue that these laws uphold due process for immigrants, protecting them from detention and deportation based solely on suspicion of criminal conduct. However, Mayor Adams faces obstacles in adjusting these laws, as any changes would require approval from the City Council. Progressive leaders within the council have indicated they have no plans to revisit the protections afforded by these laws. Despite this, Adams' willingness to entertain the idea of rolling back these laws has sparked controversy.
Migrants have passed through New York City since last spring. The White House sending a representative to meet with Mayor Eric Adams.
It's not going to get any better. From this moment on, it's downhill.
The migrants don't want to be in shelter for the rest of their lives. They're here just for get a little bit opportunity to get out.
On Sunday, the lined up around the block, hurting the businesses there. This is not going to get better.
On the other hand, critics of sanctuary policies raise concerns about potential loopholes that could allow dangerous individuals to evade immigration authorities. They argue that cooperation with federal agencies is essential for maintaining public safety and upholding the rule of law. However, they must balance these concerns with the need to protect the rights and dignity of all residents, regardless of immigration status. Ultimately, finding a balance between immigration enforcement and public safety is a complex and nuanced task. It requires thoughtful consideration of the potential impacts on immigrant communities, as well as broader implications for law enforcement and societal trust. Mayor Adams' willingness to engage in this debate reflects the challenges facing policymakers in navigating these issues, while upholding the values of inclusivity, fairness, and justice for all residents of New York City. New York's migrant crisis. The migrant crisis gripping New York City, as articulated by Mayor Eric Adams, is a complex issue with far-reaching implications for the city's economy, social fabric, and political landscape. With an influx of 110,000 asylum seekers from the southern border, Mayor Adams has sounded alarm bells about the potential destruction facing the city, emphasizing the gravity of the situation and expressing a lack of clarity on how to resolve it. At the heart of Mayor Adams' concerns is the strain placed on the city's resources, both financial and logistical, by the sudden surge in migrants. The mayor has highlighted the immense burden on the city's budget, projecting a budget gap of nearly $12 billion, equivalent to the estimated cost of accommodating the migrants over 3 years. This fiscal challenge underscores the urgent need for support from higher levels of government, particularly from President Biden's administration, which Mayor Adams accuses of failing to address the crisis adequately. The economic and practical challenges posed by the influx of migrants extend beyond mere budgetary concerns. The strain on housing, services, and schools has become increasingly untenable, with traditional city shelters and emergency sites stretched to their limits. The impending integration of migrant children into the school system further compounds these challenges, exacerbating the pressure on an already strained infrastructure.
Well, New York City's migrant crisis has reached an eye-popping new milestone. There are actually now more people seeking asylum,
shouldered almost entirely by the New York City taxpayers. But also, you're struck by the humanity.
1980, I didn't come that way. I passed through the right channel. Why don't them pass through the right?
Outside a reticketing center and the freezing temperatures to be first in line to reapply for shelter this morning.
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
Mayor Adams' vocal criticism of President Biden's handling of the crisis has not gone unnoticed by political adversaries, particularly Republicans, who have seized upon his remarks as ammunition for their own agendas. Republican leaders, including House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and former Vice President Mike Pence, have echoed Mayor Adams' concerns, framing the situation as evidence of the Biden administration's failure to secure the southern border. However, Mayor Adams' stance has also drawn criticism from immigrant advocacy groups and some Democrats, who view his rhetoric as divisive and potentially inflammatory. Accusations of racism and fear-mongering have been leveled against the mayor, particularly concerning his portrayal of migrants as a threat to the city's well-being. The debate surrounding the migrant crisis underscores deeper tensions within New York City's political landscape, as well as broader questions about immigration policy and humanitarian obligations. The city's legal obligation to provide shelter to all who need it, while emblematic of its compassionate ethos, also poses significant practical challenges, particularly in the face of overwhelming demand. Despite the contentious nature of the issue, Mayor Adams has sought to navigate a delicate balance between acknowledging the city's humanitarian responsibilities and addressing the legitimate concerns of residents. His efforts to advocate for additional support from the federal government, while also acknowledging the strain on local resources, reflect the complexity of the situation. Ultimately, the resolution of the migrant crisis will require a multifaceted approach that addresses both the immediate needs of migrants and the broader systemic issues contributing to the influx. As Mayor Adams warns of the potential loss of the city's identity in the face of this crisis, the imperative for constructive dialogue and collaborative action becomes increasingly clear. Only through concerted efforts at the local, state, and federal levels can New York City hope to navigate this challenging period and emerge stronger on the other side. That's all for this video, folks. We'll see you next time.